Welcome to the Take Charge of Change podcast, and this podcast will help you to lead a more resilient professional and personal life by sharing great content to make you smarter, more energetic, emotionally healthy, financially confident, so you accomplish your professional and personal goals in spite of the challenges that are sure to come your way. Hi everyone, Sean Humphreys here. Welcome to this video presentation, which is a continuation of a recent video that we produced dealing with the cultivation of personal resiliency. And that personal resiliency that we work on has a profound impact on our professional lives, our personal lives, our family lives, and our community lives. I'm not telling you anything new that years of research and study confirm that early childhood experiences have a profound impact on our personal resiliency. And this is because early in life, much of our cognitive maps or values or thinking patterns are set. And these patterns are set and can be very resilient, very constant over a lifetime. Now, because these patterns are subconscious, we often are unaware of how they are impacting or influencing our decisions and choices throughout our lives. So it's important that one goes through an intentional process to uncover these patterns of thinking. And so that's why the cultivation and the nurturing of reflection exercises and meditation and going through our lives in reflection and looking at various life experiences is such a critical thing to do, because it helps us to unearth some of these key thinking patterns. Now, a key trait of resilient people is their ability to monitor and regulate their own emotions and become conscious of how those emotions are impacting not just themselves, but impacting others. We talked about before how resilient people have the ability to really use social networks as part of that resiliency toolkit. They work well with people, they've got good intimate relationships, they've got supportive networks, and that doesn't happen by accident. That's a very intentional thing, maybe not consciously, maybe subconsciously, but they've been able to build those strong relational networks so that when they go through difficult challenges, they might have a network of people that can give advice, emotional support, connections to people that might be able to help them. So it ends up being a very important piece of that resiliency equation. So researchers have found that resilient people exhibit 7 qualities or factors that can help them build additional resiliency: emotional regulation, impulse control, optimism, causal analysis, empathy, self-efficacy, and reaching out. So I'm going to talk about each of those in a little bit of detail. So emotional regulation is important. Staying calm under pressure is something that resilient people are able to do. They've developed the skills that help them to initiate impulse control or emotional control, and to maintain their attention and their behavior towards what's most productive in that challenging moment. Emotional regulation is really critical in things like intimate relationships, the cultivation of relationships. It's really critical in terms of succeeding at work. You can bully people and get angry, just so much, and eventually people will disengage and won't want to work with you, and that will sabotage your professional success. And of course, being on an emotional roller coaster has negative health impacts, and so that additional stress can lead to poorer health. So if you struggle in this area, likely you probably struggle in the area of relationships generally. And so it's something you want to be attentive to. If you're trying to improve your resilience, look towards your relationships and your emotional regulation. If you get angry or sullen or anxious often, and you don't have the ability to properly express emotions in a controlled kind of way, you're going to alienate those relationships. So it doesn't mean you shouldn't use your emotions in a productive way. We are human. We get emotional, but the extremes aren't good. The extreme of no emotion, where people think you're disengaged or you don't care, or being a slave to emotions, and people think that you're a little bit out of control and just too anxious, and people will disengage from you and not want to be with you. So unfortunately, some of us are wired to be more anxious or sad or angry, and so if you're like that, you just have to work that much harder to begin to regulate your emotions so you can be more resilient and more productive in your personal and your professional worlds. Impulse control. Impulse control is absolutely critical, and there's a famous marshmallow study that was done back in the 50s, and the bottom line was that study confirmed that some people are able to control their impulses and defer current gratification for some future goal or prize or outcome. And the kids he studied initially, they eventually developed a catalog of various traits to become more disciplined and control impulse. And impulse control has a very big impact on other areas of our life. So those kids that they found could control the impulses more effectively, on almost every metrics they did better, whether it's relationships or career earnings, how they were psychologically in terms of depression, divorce rates were lower. So cultivating impulse control is absolutely critical. And if you go to our book, The Resilient Professional, we get into some strategies around that. But the big thing is just to become self-aware and to put yourself in situations where you have to be challenged to control your impulses, but also to order your life in such a way that you understand those things that you will easily succumb to, those natural impulses that you have a difficult time controlling. And then what you have to do is you need to control your environment to put yourself less and less in those particular circumstances. What about optimism? Resilient people are generally optimistic. They truly believe that things can change for the better. Compared to pessimists, optimists are healthier often. They're less likely to suffer from depression. They often do better in school. They're more productive at work. So they're often, thought to be a little bit Pollyanna. But optimists and creating an optimistic approach to life definitely has some benefits. So being optimistic doesn't imply that you believe that you can handle adversity no matter what comes, but you do believe that you have the ability to have an impact and to initiate change. Optimism helps you to be motivated, to seek solutions, and to keep working hard to improve your life. The key to resiliency and success is you have to be realistic, but you need to connect that realism to optimism, and coupled together, they are a very powerful force for change and to allow you to get through difficult times. What about causal analysis? Well, this is the ability to accurately identify the causes of your problems. It's not sugarcoating it. It's not rationalizing away issues. It's having the ability to really look at your mistakes and to make changes. People that don't have the ability to initiate causal analysis will continue to repeat the same patterns over and over again and continue to get in trouble. Okay, so it's very important that we develop an explanatory style that really digs into the reasons that we're struggling in life. So the most resilient people have cognitive flexibility and can identify all the causes of the adversity that they're going through or experiencing without getting trapped in a specific explanatory style, like, this always happens to me. This is the way it just is. They're realists in that they don't ignore factors, right, that are permanent and pervasive. I mean, sometimes that is our experience, but they don't blame reflexively others for their mistakes in order to preserve their self-esteem or absolve themselves of any guilt. And they don't waste resiliency energy worrying or ruminating about the events or circumstances outside of their control. They channel their problem-solving resources into factors they can control, and through incremental change they begin to overcome and steer through and bounce back and reach out as they're going through these challenging times. Let's talk about empathy. This is how well you're able to read other people in looking for cues to their psychological and emotional states. The inability to read nonverbal cues can be very costly in life, particularly professionally, where progressing in a career really relies on the ability to network and to build relationships and ultimately motivate staff or motivate clients to take action. It can be costly, and our personal relationships can really be diminished, and we could be misunderstood if we don't have the ability to be empathetic and to read those cues that are coming from other people, and to be reflexive enough to understand how we relate to other people and the kind of cues that we're sending off. Well, what about self-efficacy? What is that? Well, this is our sense that we're effective in the world. It is our belief that we can solve the problems that we're likely to experience, and our faith in our ability to succeed in spite of the challenges that we're confronting. People strong on self-efficacy will very often emerge as leaders, and being low in this quality makes you feel lost in a crowded world. So it's really important that we try to cultivate, and self-efficacy comes about by going through challenging circumstances, making our way through it, and accomplishing things. And so it flies in the face a little bit of this notion that everyone's a winner, particularly as we look at our kids. where competition and challenge is sometimes frowned upon in this world that we live in. But the reality is, those people that go through difficult circumstances, could be sporting events, it could be music competitions, whatever it is, there'll be challenges, but we get through them, we work hard at them, we see incremental improvement, and that leads to this notion of self-efficacy, that we can initiate change, we can make a difference in spite of how difficult things might be for us. Okay, reaching out. Resilience is not just about overcoming and steering through and bouncing back. It's also about enhancing the positive aspects of life. So resiliency is the source of our ability to reach out. Many people have great difficulty doing this. Maybe as a young person, at a young age, you experience embarrassment, and you basically don't step forward no matter what the costs are. You don't want to sort of put yourself out there because you don't want to be embarrassed again. So what drives this whole attitude is really, fear of failure, fear of embarrassment, fear of ridicule. And people will say things like the following to themselves: I'd rather not risk or attempt, so I can say I didn't succeed because I didn't try, as opposed to I did everything I could, but I still failed. And that's the dilemma, right? Is we tend to, and these people will tend to overestimate the impact of failing. Maybe as a result of failing, we'll need to acknowledge deficits in our skills or expertise. So again, we get into this trap where, because of a fear of failure, we get into this way of thinking where we go, that subconsciously is back there. I am afraid of failing. But what I'll say publicly to people is that I'm just not going to try. I don't have time. I'm not going to put myself out there because, I didn't succeed because I didn't try. And as I said before, that's very different than saying, I tried, but I didn't succeed and I failed. So there needs to be a real emotional maturity there to understand that the only way we can build our abilities, our strengths, our internal mechanisms to get through tough times is to press the envelope a little bit every once in a while, to put ourselves in challenging circumstances. That will allow us to build resiliency. Will failure come along with that? Yeah, absolutely. Part of life is failing and getting up again and learning from those experiences. And resilient people have the ability to understand that just because they failed doesn't mean they're a failure. Failure is a great teacher. And when we go through circumstances that are challenging, that lead to failure, then that whole experience of pain is a great teacher. It'll cause us to reflect. How can we do better? And again, if you've done the other things, if you've got people in your life, you've got strong relationships, those relationships will be critical in helping you go through those failures, to learn from them, and to do a reset. So it's a really important area to be mindful of. Well, that concludes this section, this follow-up video on building personal resilience. Hope you found the presentation helpful. I'd really encourage you to check out our website. We've got a lot of free materials. We have podcasts, various videos to take a look at. As well, we put together the eBook, The Resilient Professional, which is 15 chapters of great content. We've put that together to be basically a step-by-step process to help you build resiliency in various areas. Your physical resiliency for better health, cognitive and emotional and psychological resiliency, resiliency in terms of your ability to form goals and to vision your future and how to be very consistent and follow through. So The Resilient Professional, like I said, it's a free ebook. Go to our website, you can download it, and I encourage you to begin working through the chapters to build both your professional and your personal resiliency.